In part 1, we explored the history of the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast, but this is only a small part of the story. The 19th century saw a surge in fairy tale collections, especially across Europe, which revealed a plethora of stories following the outline of ATU 425C, the Animal Bridegroom. Some of these variants align very closely with the Beaumont story, changing only small details, whereas others are nearly unrecognisable as a Beauty and the Beast story. Some of the small changes include Beauty's family. Her father is often a merchant, but has also been depicted as a king or a peasant. Beauty often has 2 or 3 sisters, but rarely brothers. Sometimes she will have a stepmother or stepsisters as well. Her sisters are often envious of Beauty, but sometimes they do treat her with kindness. Most stories include a lost fortune, though there are some versions where the merchant is successful in regaining it, and other versions where there is no lost fortune and he simply goes on a general trip. The gift is usually a rose, sometimes a specific colour or 3 on one stem or a singing rose, and occasionally it is described as being the wrong season for roses, making the request impossible. Though the story often goes on to say that Beauty specifically asked for an impossible gift to not trouble her father at all. Beauty is also asked for other types of flowers. In one instance, she actually draws the flower she wants. And in other stories, it is another piece of nature, including a leaf, a twig, a grape, an apple, and a slice of roach, although no one seems to be quite sure what a slice of roach actually is. She is also asked for a coral necklace, a chip of the Great Wall of China, and the hand of the king's son. There are variants where the object taken is not a gift at all. The merchant is sometimes set upon by bandits before he reaches the Beast's castle, and other times he actually forgets Beauty's gift and has to go to the castle to find it, or buys it from someone on the road. Most commonly, the Beast demands Beauty as payment, but in some variants, he merely asks the merchant for the first thing that greets him when he returns home, and this is always Beauty. In other stories, the Beast only demands a daughter. The merchant has to ask his first 2 daughters if they will go before he finally gets to Beauty, who is the only one to agree. There are also versions where the father tries to trick the Beast by sending other girls in her place, but this is always found out. In one story from Hungary, the deal is made when a pig helps the king's carriage out of mud. The Beast is usually an unspecified monster, but sometimes takes on the form of an animal, or as a chimera of sorts. He has been a bear, a snake, a wolf, a dog, a frog, a horse, a basilisk, a dragon, a pig, a lion, a devil, and in 6 versions I found, a variety of ugly men, including a magician, a sad man, an old man, and Uncle Chang. Occasionally there are mentions of unseen servants who tend to Beauty, and sometimes the Beast himself is invisible until the curse is broken, like in Eros and Psyche. The Beast sometimes turns human at night, or will sleep in Beauty's bed with her as an animal. A magic mirror features frequently to give Beauty news of her family, but sometimes she's informed of important events by the garden, trees, birds, letters, or the Beast himself. Beauty often goes back due to her father falling ill, but sometimes she returns due to missing home, her sister's weddings, or her father's funeral. There are versions where she doesn't have a time limit and returns to the castle because the Beast falls ill. A ring is often mentioned in conjunction with Beauty's return home. It has been a transportation device, a way to remind her to return to the Beast, and occasionally connected with the Beast's health, with the gemstone changing colour or turning as he falls sick. The curse has been broken in several ways, most often, as one may guess, by love, the promise of marriage, or a kiss. Sometimes the curse is broken by the destruction of the Beast's form, often by burning the animal's skin, but occasionally beheading, whipping off fur, or, in one version, Beauty has to burn the coat to release a pigeon which lays an egg from which hatches the prince. She has also broken the curse by picking flowers, restoring the gift her father took, crying, stepping on the Beast's tail, burning him, sprinkling water on him, living in the Wall of China, showing kindness to the Beast, finding the answer in a book, casting light on his sleeping form, and withstanding a series of horrors. There are also a few versions where it is unclear what she does to save him, with the Beast merely being human the next morning or taking off his animal fur. In some stories, she is forced to marry the Beast, either to save her father from dying, or, in a variant from Basque, to survive, as the house stops providing her with food until she agrees. Finally, on a more tragic note, there are versions in which Beauty fails to restore the Beast's humanity, and is often in some way punished. There are a multitude of versions of this story out there, some easy to find, some more difficult to find, but all equally fascinating. Depending on the version and the plot points focused on, one may read different meanings into the tale. The most commonly accepted meaning, that is of Beaumont's version, is the tale as a didactic story for children, preparing young girls for adulthood and arranged marriages, with an emphasis on self-sacrifice and modesty. After all, their husbands may be old or ugly, but these things do not matter so much as he treats his new wife with kindness and respect, and the ugly may not appear so formidable after a while. However, the girl is unable to fully appreciate her new husband until she relinquishes her bond with her father. Perhaps this is why so many versions feature the Beast ailing whenever Beauty leaves him to visit her family. She has turned her back on this new bond in favour of the old, and their pseudo-marriage suffers. But when she finally decides, of her own volition, either through guilt or upon realising the beast is dying, she finally breaks that old bond by choosing to return to her husband. Thus, their marriage is allowed to flourish and the beast is made human. What perhaps sets this fairy tale apart from others is the emphasis on conjugal friendship in Beauty and the Beast's union. Back when girls may have been married off as young as 14 and 15, a marriage revolving around love was an elusive thing. Charles Perrault, another famous French writer, said, "I don't doubt at all that several people of the higher ranks find it strange that I deem it such great happiness to enjoy conjugal friendship. Those who ordinarily only regard marriage as a path towards establishing themselves in society, and who believe that if you must take a wife in order to have children, you must pick a mistress in order to have pleasure." And of course, in Villeneuve's novella, she explicitly states the importance of marriage between people of similar age and character, and the virtues of kindness and good-heartedness over physical beauty. Bruno Bettelheim views the tale a little differently, as a tale of growing up through sexual awakening. Outside of Villeneuve's version, the beast's curse is rarely explicitly explained and often incurred by a sorceress or a fairy or a witch who receives no punishment. Bettelheim posits that the beast's transformation into something hideous and scary symbolises our repression of sex when we are young, viewing it as something animal-like and something to avoid. It is only when Beauty consents to marry the beast that he becomes human again, when, in the bonds of marriage, sex is permissible. And of course, it is nearly always the father who sends Beauty to her husband, as the father of the bride is the one who traditionally gives her away at the wedding. Furthermore, Bettelheim adds that the father giving up Beauty to the beast is him relinquishing his Oedipal attachment to his daughter and inducing her to give up hers to him. We can apply this reading to Villeneuve's more complex narrative with the beast's rejection of the old fairy. As she held a mother-like role in his life, we could say an Oedipal attachment is formed, which must be rejected. The beast's subsequent transformation due to his relationship could also be an Oedipal attachment, based on Freud's theory that our first sexual interest is always found in, or based on, our parental figures. Again, this must also be rejected, and thus the beast is able to turn human once again. Going back to one of Beauty and the Beast's predecessors, the Pig King, there is likely a reason the titular beast specifically murders his first two brides on their wedding night. If, in the realms of marriage, sex becomes a good and acceptable thing, then the first two brides rejecting the pig due to his physical form is, in a way, rejecting this part of marriage. Thus, they have to die. Even the way in which they are killed, with the pig driving his long hooves into them, could be seen as sexual. It is no wonder this fairy tale has been such a popular one to adapt into several forms of media. It gives its name to songs by David Bowie and Stevie Nicks. It has also been recycled into at least 6 short stories, 12 films, 10 novels, 6 episodes of TV shows, 3 full TV shows, 1 screenplay, 1 musical, 1 opera, 1 graphic novel, and 1 ballet. And this doesn't include the plethora of media I missed, unpublished fiction and fan fiction on the internet, several cheap animated films, and pantomimes across the world. Those who have studied literature are probably aware of Angela Carter's short story collection, The Bloody Chamber, a series of stories based mostly on French fairy tales, which includes 2 retellings of Beauty and the Beast, Tiger's Bride and The Courtship of Mr. Lion. The Courtship of Mr. Lion is more or less a modern version of the story, hitting nearly every plot beat of the fairy tale. However, Carter draws out images to support the key themes of the original story, those of purity, sacrifice, and transformation, with the use of a white rose and Beauty as a sacrificial lamb. The Tiger's Bride, on the other hand, subverts the story. When the father asks Beauty for forgiveness after losing her in a card game, he asks her for a white rose, which she gives him after accidentally smearing blood on it. The beast battles fruitlessly against his animalistic nature, wearing a mask, wig, and cologne to hide himself. Ultimately, after reflecting on the way women and animals are viewed by a patriarchal society, Beauty finds she is more similar to the beast than he is to a man. Beauty's kindness does not transform the beast into a socially acceptable, handsome man, but instead she is transformed when he licks away her skin to reveal her own animal fur beneath. And she is able to shed the shackles of a society that treats her like an object that can be gambled away. So where has Beauty and the Beast found itself today? For most people, their introduction to this fairy tale, and for most of them, where the exploration of the story ended, is of course the 1991 animated Disney film. But before this, Beauty and the Beast was brought to the big screen by Jean Cocteau in 1946. Beauty, who is called Belle, has a brother, Ludovic, who adds to the family's money problems and later conspires with Belle's sisters. He also has a friend, Avenant, who wants to marry Belle. When the father ends up at the beast's castle, he is led by an enchanted candelabra. At the film's climax, Ludovic and Avenant go to the beast's castle to kill him, but instead get distracted by trying to loot his treasure house. The beast dies in Belle's arms, but her love saves him and he transforms back into a human. Meanwhile, Avenant is hit with an arrow and turned into a beast. One interesting thing to note is that the actor who played the beast also played Avenant, highlighting that these characters are, in a way, similar. This similarity was brought into the spotlight a few decades later by the Walt Disney Company when they made the first animated film to ever be nominated for Best Picture. The story was both simplified and made complex, with the relationship between the leads being given more time and space to develop organically, whilst Belle's family is reduced to just her father. Cocteau's Avenant inspired the main antagonist, the handsome but conceited Gaston, who becomes the beast's foil. Both begin as vain, priding themselves on their looks and rejecting anything ugly. However, the beast proves to be kind and gentle at heart, and his selfless love for Belle allows him to let her go, whereas Gaston doesn't learn, and his selfish love of Belle drives him to imprison her and her father and try to kill the beast. Whilst the themes of sacrifice and a good heart winning over physical beauty are still prevalent in the film, it also forces the responsibility onto the beast as well as Belle. He must change and learn to be kind before Belle is able to fully love him and thus free him, as opposed to previous beasts, who had always been polite and gentle to her and merely had to wait for her to see past his physical appearance. As with many fairy tales, there will always be an inexplicable pull towards Beauty and the Beast, to the magic, romance, and lessons found within. And, as such, there will always be new retellings to explore, develop, and subvert the story, characters, and themes. And some that will disregard them entirely. Outside of straight adaptations and retellings, Beauty and the Beast has left an unquestionable mark on romance and media. One only has to look at King Kong, Edward Scissorhands, Jane Eyre, and countless others to see its effects on the arts, which will continue far into the future. And that's the story of Beauty and the Beast. The Beast had disappeared, and at her feet was a prince. They were married and lived together for a long time in perfect happiness, because their relationship was founded on virtue. The end.